off as a PG podcast, but then Devin just kept on dropping shits and fucks, and
I'm just trying to figure out what's in her mouth.
I just want to see him interview Francesco Aquilini.
No, he's a good human being, is what he would say about himself, I'm sure.
Who's hosting this thing?
Take charge, Kevin. Would you? Jesus.
First time we ever met those guys. That was the major drunken pub argument.
I think you guys are the worst.
I'm gonna have to probably watch some Canucks hockey, unfortunately.
Just making friends left, right, and center, and probably some enemies as well.
Tell him to shut up. He needs to hear that every once in a while.
Well, off to a good start.
All right. We are live.
It's okay to talk when it goes live.
Well, hello, everyone. Happy Sunday to you. Welcome to the Hockey Podcast. You can, of course, follow us on Twitter at podcast_hockey, Facebook.com, the Hockey Podcast, YouTube.com, the Hockey Podcast, where we are currently at 100 and the Michael Ryder of subscribers. And thank all of you for subscribing to our content. And, of course, you can subscribe to the audio after the show. First day, it's an exciting, well, it's a day. I'm not going to say it's exciting. I think we'll get to that in a moment here. But we've got lots to get into. Hello, Devin. We say hello to Devin, first of all. How are you?
Oh, good, Kev. How are you?
I'm good. I'm going to start by embarrassing myself before everyone else. I went to my first hockey game in 18 months yesterday at the Burnaby 8 rinks on Sprott Street here, and to watch the Greater Vancouver Canadians play the Fraser Valley Giants, and it's an exhibition game. And I'm still in no pants mode, man. I'm in shorts, and I went into that hockey rink wearing shorts, and it was probably one of the dumbest decisions that I have made in my life. Hockey rinks are cold. Just a breaking news. Ice is cold. But, I mean, it was great to get and see hockey again live. That has been, like, in-person live, obviously, watching on TV live. But just, it's good to see that, the sound of hockey, as training camps for the WHL have begun, exhibition games for everything else has begun here. So, that's the good, but I'm still a moron.
That's amazing, man. I've massive props to you, but that's a cold reunion for you going to watch a hockey game, that's for sure. But hey, you know what? It's still shorts weather, kind of. Maybe not here in Calgary right now, but I'm sure it is over there in Burnaby. So hey, good on you.
Yes, it's probably shorts weather for another couple of weeks here, I think. So at least, or I'm going to try to fight on.
Yeah, right. Yeah, today it's thunder showers potentially, so it's a little cooler, which I don't mind. I thrive at 15 degrees, which it's 14 right now. So I'm in my happy little zone of weather, of temperature. So yeah, I'm sure Sean feels the same way. Him and I both run pretty hot.
Sean, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm okay. We had a impromptu sort of late night last night, so I'm following rule number 76: no excuses, play like a champ. Unlike Chris. But yeah, it's as Devin said, yeah, it's a little cooler here, and it feels nice. It's nothing's worse than having dealing with the after effects of a late night and when it's hot. So
that's the truth.
Yeah, so we're doing good here.
I want to do my impression of Chris right now.
Do it.
And you know what that means, Chris.
I
just got to say, sup, Gene Guy? How you doing?
Yeah, it's Gene. Jean-Guy, how are you doing? Happy Saturday, except it's Sunday. So
I actually didn't catch that.
But also I got a message from Tyler Devin. I wanted to read this. Hi, hey Kev, is Devin coming on? Yes. then I'm fuck this. I'm not coming on. That's what he said.
Hey, that's fine. That's okay. I could play the heel on this podcast. We got the hair. We got the heel. How about that?
Yeah. Oh boy. But Tyler will be back next week, and they will be together. Don't worry. Or am I spoiling the potential feud? Who knows? Wanted to start. We'll start little somber, then we'll go up here. This is the 20th. Today would be the 20th anniversary of the day after of 9/11, 2001. I remember it still shakes me still from this day. And there, I mean, just off topic, the NFL has done a fantastic job in doing their tribute today. If you don't get a chance, find the narration that Steve Buscemi did before the games this morning. That was really great. But I just remember waking up that morning, turning on the radio and hearing it was, I think Peter Marr was on the radio at the time. And they just said, it was the first plane that went down. And then my roommate just kind of got into a panic about 20 minutes later when everything else happened. The second tower went down. It still chills me. That was such a weird day. And, wanted to start it. Just, of course, we had to commemorate that for the 20th anniversary. But where were you guys at that? What do you remember about that day?
It was beginning of school year. I was in grade 10, and which my math serves me correct. Devin would have been in grade 6.
That's right.
Yeah, and we had just started school at we had been in the midst of a move. And we were moving from in the city to a place just outside of Calgary, and going to I was going to Cochrane High. Devin was going to Manitchabin. There we go. I was like, I can't remember.
Yeah.
And it was surreal. Like, you could not believe it. And there, the TV was on. Wherever you were, the TV was on, and you were just watching in complete and utter disbelief.
Yeah. I just I remember just being on the bus, maybe for the second or third time with my new schoolmates. I had no idea who anybody was, and just kind of sitting and listening to everybody just chat about it, and listening to the news on the way to our bus stop. Yeah, it was just crazy, obviously, and. Thoughts go out to all the families that were affected by them. If you guys haven't seen, there's a documentary on Crave. There's a documentary on Disney Plus, and there's also a documentary on Netflix about the different stories that kind of happened during that time. So definitely, I have a hard time watching it because obviously what has happened and what did happen, but it's definitely eye-opening to hear those first account stories.
Yeah. There's also one in Apple as well. But I mean, the politics aside, just there were human lives lost of a significant amount from all over the place. It is brutal for that. So, and I mean, just acknowledging that. And also, but to bring us up here a little bit, I know this isn't hockey, but I actually think in a lot of ways this is good. I'm going to bring this to hockey a little bit. I think a round of applause is deserved for Leylah Fernandez. I know she didn't win. I know that, but she lost to someone who did not lose a set this entire tournament. That is like historic, incredible, legendary stuff. I think that this is just what a special performance. I know Sean will disagree with me, but I suggested the Lou Marsh, but I hope at least she's in the conversation. She had a great tournament, and I think this is so good for sports in Canada, especially for female athletes. It's another athlete that can be spotlighted. Tennis is finally getting a higher level of conversation up here. And I think it's good for hockey because I think, hockey at times in Canadian content has rested on its laurels and is expected to be number one. And I think it's good to push hockey a little bit. Seeing like NFL is popular, tennis is other sports getting that representation, I think it does help hockey in the long run.
Yeah, it was a good way to cap off Canadian girls' summer with all the whether it was the women's soccer team, the women's hockey team, and then all the women Olympians that were able to win medals and win their events in the Olympics. It was been fantastic, and Leylah Fernandez is an absolutely amazing story, and the best is still to come with her too. So don't think this is a flash in the pan. She's got something.
Yeah, along with Bianca Andreescu, women's tennis in Canada is coming up strong, and to Sean's point, it's really exciting to see just a push by other sports, especially with the women's side of the soccer and yes, hockey, but it's super encouraging to see all these athletes get in the spotlight right now.
Yep. And she's a damn fine human being too. So it's easy to cheer. And yes, I know Emma is born in Toronto. I understand that, but she's representing Great Britain, so we have to cheer for Leylah. And I just loved her story anyway. So anyway, I wanted to get all that out of the way, and now we will get into hockey. And Flames Twitter was amok this week. As the Calgary Canucks continue to reform here. 4 signings. We got Connor Mackey, I think, got signed to a 2-way deal. Brad Richardson, a 1-year deal. Michael Stone.
Mark.
Yeah, that would be nice. Michael Stone has returned, not a surprise. But Erik Gudbranson, I think, is what took Flames Twitter by storm, signing a 1-year deal. So we'll start with how Devin is feeling about all of this. And then Sean and I'll give my perspective on this as well.
Yeah, getting Mackey for 2 years at just under $1 million, I think, is a really good deal for him. He's 25 because he went the college route, and it sounds like they're still very, very high on Connor Mackey. So I'm happy that he's going to be playing actually a full year of pro this year. And maybe if there's potential injuries happening here, which always does happen, especially with Tanev playing a full season, where we're expecting, I'm expecting him to be injured at some point here just because of the way that he plays. And yes, he's a right shot. But as far as Tanev goes, he's a right shot. But having that depth is key in making sure that your covers are filled a little bit more, so you don't have to stretch Connor Mackey outside of his comfort zone. Also, with the signings of Michael Stone, almost said Mark. That's a no-brainer in my mind. I mean, everybody was expecting it, and if you weren't expecting it, I don't know really how in-depth touched or how in touch you are within the Flames organization. So that one didn't surprise me. But as far as Gudbranson goes, you know what? I'm not upset about it. I think it's a good depth signing. Now, if he's going to be playing second line minutes, that is concerning to me. The reason why is because we have we have Rasmus Andersson on the right side, and he'll most likely be playing in the top 4. If he's not playing in the top 4, then that's a massive issue. He needs to be taking a step forward this year, pushing to be on that top line and maybe push Chris Tanev down in minutes a little bit. And I think that would be the best case scenario for the right side there. But my concern is that we all know Daryl Sutter. We all know the type of coach that he is he loves his veterans, hence the Richardson signing as well. But as far as Gudbranson goes, I know he's a red shot, but as long as he does not stunt, as Daryl Sutter doesn't stunt on the growth of a Valimaki, or the growth of Erasmus Anderson. That's my only concern with having such a veteran heavy defense core, if you will. I think like I said, if Gudbranson can keep at a third line role, I'm totally fine with it. And it's a no risk move at 1.9 for 1 year. So overall, not overly panicky about that. I'm just concerned about Daryl Sutter and how he's going to deploy his troops here. I think that the left shot to right shot comparison is just going to be might be overruled because he loves his veterans. So that's my only thing. Don't stunt the growth of our young players. And along with the Brad Richardson signing, I think that's great. It could be a great fourth line center. I want to see Glenn Godden get a chance here. He's been in the organization for a very long time. He signed a 1-year contract this year. 24 years old, still young. And I remember watching Heidi, Sean, and I went to a preseason game. Oh God, was that 3 years ago, Sean?
Been 2 years ago, 2019.
No, it feels like forever.
All right.
we watched him play against the Sharks, and I thought he played fantastic. And he is a pro hockey player for sure. It's just if he could get a chance to get a regular shift in the NHL, I feel like that'd be beneficial for him. But you know what? Overall, these signings are good in my mind. Well, maybe right down the middle. Not good, not great, but we needed to fill out the roster a little bit more than what they had about a week ago. So hey, Brad, you did an okay job.
Just to follow up on that exhibition game that we went to, that was when we decided that we should bring you onto the podcast too.
Oh, well, look at that.
That was a mistake.
Oh, hey.
Surprisingly enough, I'm still here. I don't know how,
but in terms of the signings, Stone's a good depth guy. You signed him for basically for league minimum for a year. He's going to be your fourth right side defenseman on your depth chart right now. And then Gudbranson should be your third pair guy. I still think that 195 is a bit high for what Gudbranson brings to the is going to bring to the table for you, but it's only 1 year, so if he's horrible, then they can just move on from him real easy. But yeah, I don't see either of those signings on the blue line really hampering the growth of a Valimaki or a Mackey. I think that both. I think Mackey will probably be playing in Stockton. This at least to start this year, getting him reps and minutes down there, and I think that'll help his development a little bit. And then I think Valimaki still has a very good shot at being a top 4 defenseman for this team. Because on the left side, it's Noah Hannafin, it's Valimaki, and it's Nikita Zadorov. So he's got the opportunity to do it. And it's up to him to take it and become a top 4 defenseman for the Flames. And then with Brad Richardson, yeah, just good veteran fourth line center. And I think there's nothing wrong with that. And I think he's only making $800,000, so you can switch him in and out of the lineup with a Glenn Godden, depending on who's playing better. So I think other than the Gudbranson signing, I think they were all good depth signings, and I think the Gudbranson one is one that I think, he's going to be your third pair guy. But I just look at that Flames defense, and I just worry about foot speed.
Yep. Yeah, and to Connor Mackey right now is actually on the AHL roster as of right now. He's not playing, or he's not listed on cap friendly on the NHL roster. So, and he's waiver exempt too. So we don't have to worry about losing him going through waivers.
Well, the interesting thing about Mackey is he's not waiver exempt. If you send him down to Stockton, he has to clear waivers, and you would lose him.
100%.
Yeah. So
but they're not going to do that. They'll keep him, and they'll, like I said, I think they're going to give him every opportunity to be a top 4 defenseman on this team, because they need him to be that for the team. If he's not, that blue line is not anywhere good enough to compete even in the Pacific Division.
Yeah. So I mean, the Connor Mackey signing, I think how they develop him, I think that's fine. And I mean, I know he's 36, and I know that a lot of people are looking at it as old, but I think Brad Richardson will provide that valuable piece, a la Derek Ryan, sort of a similar guy. He'll kill penalties. He'll do his thing. He's going to be a 4th line center. But at the same time, hello? I was like, oh, what happened there? The mute went. The one concern I have with that is that, you look at that center ice position for the Flames too, and they are getting a little elderly there. So I do think I hope Glenn Gutton has a camp that impresses Daryl Sutter a little more, because I do think they need some youth there for sure. And I do think I'm a little also worried about the depth up front as well. And Michael Stone, we knew he was coming back. Daryl Sutter was high on him late in the second half of the year. And then you have Gudbranson. I'm not going to slight him as but I do think that I think my annoyance with this is I do think that there were some other options that you could have put $1.95 million to. There's Sammy Vatanen is still out there. Mark Pysyk is still out there. There's a few pretty solid, and Sammy Vatanen can play with that suffocating sort of nastiness. And maybe Sammy Vatanen didn't want to come here, but what it seemed to me, according to what Erik Gudbranson said, is Daryl Sutter contacted him right away as soon as free agency started. And that, to me, is where I'm feeling a little bit of a head scratch. What is it about Erik Gudbranson that the Flames are seeing over everyone else?
What he's seeing is you're looking at the head coach wanting to play nitty gritty, hard nose hockey. Look at the signings of traded for Tyler Pitlick. Talk about him. All these players are meat potatoes guys. Tyler Pitlick, Brett Richie because he's coming back, Trevor Lewis, Brad Richardson. He's maybe not nitty gritty, but a good veteran presence. And then you have Michael Stone, who actually was in the lineup for the last few games of the year, playing decently high minutes for him. That is, especially since he's been in and out of the lineup for the past 3 years with the Flames. So it's bringing back the MO of maybe mid-2000 hockey of let's be gritty, let's not get pushed around. And Treliving has been shown that he wants to be a bit more, not as soft, if you will, within this Pacific Division. And it's going to be a hard out for any team that comes in the Saddle Dome or any team that plays the Calgary Flames. That's the reason why he called Gudbranson right away and said, hey, look, I really hope that we're going to be able to sign you, because that's where my worry, that's where I start worrying a little bit, is because Daryl Sutter called him at the beginning of free agency and said, hey, wait for us. We're coming for you, kind of thing. I'm going to do my best to get you signed. And as long as he stays as a third line role, I don't think it's a bad signing. Just as long as he stays there and doesn't take many penalties. But Sean, my concern is the exact same as Sean's. There's not a lot of foot speed on that back end. There's not a lot of puck moving defenseman. I mean, Mackey has little spurts here and there. He can carry the puck out, which is nice, but still not that quick. Rasmus Anderson, not that quick. Tanev, not that quick. And if you're relying on a Noah Hannafin to be your horse back there, he had a great year last year. Don't get me wrong, but he needs to build off of that, or at least show exactly the same type of game that he showed last year. Otherwise, I am very concerned about this back end.
Well, you know what? Do you know what Daryl and Brad Treliving are doing with the Flames?
What's that?
To bring in a good hockey movie.
For those of us that are you're not seeing what's happening here, Sean has brought up a YouTube clip.
Yeah, do you hear it?
No.
No. Oh, sorry. Hold on. I'll get that again. My fault.
I'm like, what?
Yeah, just give me 1 second here.
Luckily, it's just preseason here, fellas.
We're in training camp.
Yeah.
There we go. From the great movie Slapshot.
No, still can't hear it.
I can't hear it.
No.
All right.
So
that clip is from Slapshot, and you got the bus driver just with a sledgehammer hammering on the bus, and Ned Braden's asking, "What's he doing?" "I'm making it look mean." He's making Daryl's making the Flames mean, making them tough to play against.
I'm just interested to see how it all comes together against Connor McDavid flying down the ice. He's going to be undressing the entire team, and that's what I'm scared of.
Well, not only that, from the Canucks perspective, Höglander's got some speed. Pettersson's going to be back. He's got some speed. Horvat, when he's on offense, he can make some moves.
Pettersson's not officially back yet, though.
When he's back, we'll get to that.
Okay.
There is an underappreciated amount of speed in this division too. It is concerning. Yeah. And on the other side of all of this, the one we'll get to Tree here, but this may raid into our poll question. They signed Darth Vlader as a backup, but what this is telling me is they are going to be playing Jacob Markstrom a lot, and I'm not. This looks like a 50 to 60 game schedule unless I'm seeing something different. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong. This isn't maybe Vlader will surprise, but this looks to me like they're going to be playing Markstrom a lot. And I'm not sure I am fully convinced that that's the best thing to do. Markstrom was fine last year, but he got hurt. He has been hurt. We talk about Tanev's injury history. Markstrom has an injury history as well. And I don't if Markstrom goes down, this team's in trouble.
It's definitely worrisome for sure. They also did sign Adam Werner. I believe he was from Colorado. Listening to, oh man, I gotta get my brain right on who the goalie coaches for the Flames right now. It's Jamie Pringles. Pringles is not his actual name though. I know that's his nickname. Or is it? Doing really well.
You got LaBarbera, who's I think isn't it LaBarbera who's the head the coach because they moved up.
Yeah, LaBarbera is the coach.
Well, yeah, but the head guy is Jamie. Whatever his name is. Anyways, he was talking on a podcast or on 960 earlier this year about the signings of Werner, of trading for Dan Vlader, and they're both very high on these goalies. There's not a veteran goalie within this lineup other than Jacob Markstrom. Vlader is 24, Werner is 24, Tyler Parsons is 23, and Dustin Wolf is 20. So, and let alone that we had that other Russian goalie coming over to the Flames organization as well. That was confirmed earlier this week, and I forget his name too. Chechelev.
Yeah,
I want to say.
He signed it. Yeah, and he signed an AHL deal.
Yes, and so this can be a very interesting year for the goalie situation in Calgary. But Kev, you are right. Trotting out Markstrom for 60, potentially 65 games this year, and expect him to be willing and able to perform in the playoffs if they get to the playoffs is a little concerning for sure. And like I said, without that a veteran kind of backup goalie, you're relying on some kids here, and I don't know if that's I don't know if they'll be able to take that step forward as far as Vlader goes, or if Warner comes up. Warner played a little bit in Colorado, but I'm pretty sure him and Vlader have very similar games played in the NHL, which is not a lot. I know that for a fact. So
7 total between the two of them.
There you go. That's scary. And especially knowing the way that, once again, Daryl Sutter likes to coach. He loves riding his goalie. But if hopefully within his defensive structure, Markstrom won't be able to, won't have as many miles or as many shots on him as that'll wear him down throughout the entire year. But I believe Markstrom is one of those goalies who does like to have a lot of shots to stay in the game. Man, this year's a bit of a toss-up for me as of right now if we're going in with this roster.
So the goaltending structure, Jordan Singlet is the senior goaltending coach.
Thank you.
Jamie
Pringles
Springer is the assistant coach of video. Jason LaBarbera is the goaltending coach.
There we go. Singlet. Thank you. Yeah.
That's okay.
Me with names, all of a sudden Michael Stone's going to be in the starting lineup. I don't know.
Yeah.
M. Stone.
Yes.
That'll work. But I do. That's my biggest worry with the Flames, and biggest knock on them is the foot speed on the back end. I think will get exposed, and they're going to be relying on Markstrom way too much. And with Markstrom, he plays really well, and then just you can't. It's so hard to go away from him, and then he gets injured. It's happened year after year after year with him ever since he became a full-time starting goaltender and took his game to the next level, became a really good top end goalie in the NHL. So if he gets injured at all, it's going to be rough.
Yep.
Which leads to our poll question. And I think this is let's look at what Treliving has done. He brought in Blake Coleman. I do think that was an overpay, I will grant, but it was a good signing. Brought in Tyler Pitlick, brought in Trevor Lewis, Nikita Zadorov in a trade. Gio was left as for the Kraken, but I think most people went into this offseason expecting this earth-shattering, major roster construction, and it didn't happen. Johnny Gaudreau still isn't signed. They still haven't gotten to that contract yet, and I'm not. That no trade list has passed. Now, how would we rate Brad Treliving's offseason?
Personally, it's not done yet. I still think there's something boiling and brewing, and I just, if this is it, as of right now, it's a C+ B- for me. Bringing in Zadorov, I thought that Zadorov was actually going to be picked by the Kraken in the expansion draft, and that was my prediction. He wasn't picked. I believe some random no-name guy, whoever was picked from Chicago for the expansion draft was picked ahead of Zadorov. So getting Zadorov for, I believe, a third rounder, that's not too bad. Bringing in Blake Coleman, yes, overpay, but I think that he will provide leadership within that room. And I think that he will be on, in my prediction, the second line, trying to help bang and crash and be kind of like a Zach Hyman type of player. So I think that's a good signing as well. But after that, it's pretty pedestrian as far as the NHL goes. Also picking up Daniel Vlader as well. As we were not bashing him, but saying that he doesn't have enough experience within the NHL. I think having that goaltender depth within this organization is good. It's just relying him to be a backup goalie. It's hard. So I mean, going down the list, that's pretty much the highlights of what he's done here. Otherwise, it's C+, B- for me.
D. Coleman's a good acquisition, but it doesn't actually fix the major problem up front for the Flames, and that's I think they don't have the right mix up front, and I think they're missing a true right shot scoring threat in their top six on the right side on the wing, and the blue line is slow, and I think it's worse than last year, so I give it a D.
I'm in the C to the D part. I think that my this is where what is bothering me the most here. I like the Coleman. I like the Coleman signing. I mean, Zadorov, I think, is a good piece. I like Brad Richardson. I think Trevor Lewis will be one of those guys. I think he'll be a surprisingly good ad, and I think even Tyler Pitlick will be. That's solid, but part of my frustration, and I guess I mean, I'm not in the general manager room, but this comes down to, it felt like to me, and I don't know, maybe I'm misunderstanding. I could be wrong, but Irfan Gaffar reported that these signings of Richardson and Gudbranson have basically pulled. They have moved out of the Jack Eichel sweepstakes. If they were in it at all, they are out, and I don't know what any indication of any update of Eichel here. As far as I've read, there's no surgery that has been done. All that. So I'm not sure where the whole big picture of Eichel is. But I think to me, what is my annoyance is coming from is not finding, and with in Canucks Twitter, Sean will understand this. I mean, this is with Jim Benning. It's just not finding that creativity to find another piece out there to fix the problem, and that's where I'm sort of is my annoyance with Treliving. Maybe the fan base we were just all focused too much on Eichel, but I think a major miss. And I don't know if they had the pieces necessarily, but I think a major miss, a major regret. I'm telling you right now, Flames fans, and I'm telling you, Canuck fans, the Flames missed out on Connor Garland. Connor Garland would have been a great fit in Calgary. A right shot, plays pesky. You can, he would have been a perfect fit in that Flames top six. But they didn't get him. I don't know what happened there. I think that they seem to have some of the similar pieces of what Vancouver had. Even an offer sheet to Kyler Yamamoto, something to just create some creativity, just seemed to lack to me to Treliving. And again, I'm not in the general manager's room. There may be things I'm missing, but it just felt so much of this chips was we're going after Jack Eichel and not thinking anywhere else. And there are options out there.
Yeah, there is something lacking within his offseason for sure. I have a hard time throwing that much shade over him, just because we don't know what offers have been or what he's offered other GMs, what GMs have offered him. Maybe he's being lowballed. Maybe he's not giving enough. But I might be just looking at it with rose-colored glasses because I'm not a hater of Brad Treliving. I think he's done an okay, decent job within this organization. It's really hard to criticize him for always being the bridesmaid. At least he's in on it. Has been my MO. And yeah, if nothing happens with Johnny Gaudreau and he walks, that's terrible. That's atrocious, and that cannot happen. I don't know. I think there's a lot of teams that were in on Jack Eichel, but it comes to a breaking point where you got to do something else. You got to move on from Jack Eichel because it doesn't seem like either side are gonna back away or decide to be like, okay, well, I guess I'll do what the other side is wanting me to do to move on from it, and make either Jack Eichel available for another GM or. It's one of those things where you have to cut bait at some point, and I think it was smart actually of Brad Treliving not to wait around for Jack Eichel to be available and going into the season with the team that he had before this past week. So there's a fine balance between giving him a lot of criticism, but if Brad Treliving is the GM that I think that he is, he will get something done by either the beginning of training camp beginning of the season, or he'll get something done midway through the year. And if he doesn't, then, man, I've been wrong.
Just on the Eichel thing, I agree with you. I've been one that I'm not necessarily convinced that is the right move. I understand he's a franchise center, but what the Sabres were asking and what people were, and I got eviscerated on Twitter for not allowing Chris Tanev to be part of a Jack Eichel deal, but I just don't think you give up that much for Jack Eichel at this point in time when he has not had the surgery, and it is quite possible he might miss at least half the season, if not most of the season. Anyway, you can eviscerate me on Twitter on that for all you want, but that's where I stand. So I do agree with you, Devin, on holding back a bit on that. Anyway, Sean.
Well, I it's hard to argue what Devin said. But for me, I just look at it and say it is adding Blake Coleman, Zadorov, and is that good enough? Is that going to help the Flames go from being out of the playoffs and get back in a Pacific Division that has a very motivated and very different Canucks team, a Vegas team that's very good, an Oilers team led by McDavid and Draisaitl, and then a Central Division that's pretty deep as well. Are they going to be able to do it? I really don't know. I don't think it's going to be a very tough road for them. And you're going to have the players that have underperformed and have been part of the problem that you've kept here to step up and actually be the solution, whether it's a Tkachuk, a Gaudreau, a Monahan, those three. If one of them doesn't bounce back, and they still are basically what they were last year, I don't think there's a chance they make the playoffs. And maybe that's what Brad is banking on. He's banking on his top stars having a bounce back season. But I honestly think there needs to be a shakeup up front. Yeah, you lost your captain with Giordano, but up front has also been a bit of an issue. And where's that? Outside the top two lines, are you going to have enough offense too? I think that's a legit question.
I'm glad you brought that up, Sean, because the one thing we haven't talked about yet is the depth in the organization. Are we going to see a Pelche try and push for a spot that has a bit of skill onto him? And I would love to see that, bring that grittiness, because he is a Daryl Sutter type player. We saw him in the World Juniors light it up, and I'm pretty sure he was a point a game player in the World Juniors. And if he could take a step, that'd be fantastic. If Adam Rizicka can take a step as well, because he was popping at the end of last year. He's a big center that could potentially be pushing for a spot here as well. If you could have potentially a Connor Zary step in and potentially push and make them say, okay, well, this guy's too good. We can't let him just go down to the AHL and stay there. But those young players that are in the Flames organization, if they start popping, if they start showing that they have the offensive skill, then I think we're talking about something completely different here. And let alone Dylan Dubé taking a step forward, Mangiapane that could be potentially a 25 to 30 goal scorer. I think the biggest question mark would be Dubé though for me. I think he has the skill to be a top 6 player and maybe even a 50-point guy. And I know that's a high ceiling, and that's high praise for him for a player who hasn't really stepped out of his form of his rookie year. But man, those are the players that I think could be catalysts in the Flames being successful, along with the Tkachuk not going back to his form as well.
So the Flames prospect list, according to Athletics and the rankings, is right now sitting at number 26th. The Hockey Writers have their 5 untouchable prospects in order from 1 to 5. Connor Zary, Adam Ruzicka, Justin Wolf, Jacob Pelche, and Matthew Phillips. It's not right now. It's not a great pipeline. Other than Connor Mackey, is there really another defenseman that a lot of people are high on right now in the organization? That is, I mean, that is not on the team for sure. Valimaki's on the team for sure. So, I mean, I don't know where we're at with Oliver Shillington, but it seems to me that this organization, for whatever reason, that it's not clicking. Matthew Coronado is a potential, but he's a few years away, and so I'm
pretty sure he's going back to junior college. I think it's college that he's playing. I'm pretty sure he's going back. I'm curious about Yann Kuznetsov, second rounder from 2 years ago. He's a big body defenseman, not really flashy or anything like that, but he's a good solid stay-at-home defenseman. Other than that, Kev, you're right. I don't see anybody else really on that depth chart for a defenseman to really step up and be somebody noteworthy. I mean, maybe Colton Pullman. Other than that, I don't really have anybody else on my radar. I don't know if things are, or if they're going to be letting public into the training camp here. But if they are, I'm going to be going and I'm going to be watching some hockey here. If that's a possibility, because I'm very curious to see where Zary, where Pelche are on that depth chart, and if they are popping against these young players and could be pushing for a spot here.
Before we get to Van City's question, because I do think it's an interesting question, is the myth Daryl Sutter and the young players? What you're saying, Devin, is you want some of these young players to pop. The criticism is Daryl Sutter doesn't play the young players.
It's a fine balance between it all. I hope that Daryl Sutter kind of has a John Tortorella kind of aha moment in having a good balance between liking your veteran players, but also integrating into this new younger players asking, why am I doing this? Giving them answers, giving them the proper tools to be successful. I think that you need to have both, because you can't give young players the world and give them a lot of responsibility. I think giving them a fair shot definitely needs to happen, but that's the whole criticism of Daryl Sutter being hired last year. It's just, okay, well, what type of coach is he going to be? All the veterans love him because he's harsh but fair within his criticism and within his the way that he teaches the young players. But if he's going to be benching players, even though like for doing something wrong, depends how much of a mistake that that player made within that player, whatever the case may be. I just hope that my thought process is wrong with having Daryl Sutter, because I think that he can give these young players the right tools to be successful, but it's whether or not he's giving them the opportunity to do that.
I think Daryl wants the young players to play. He wants them to be part of the lineup, but they have to prove that they're ready, and they're ready to play Daryl Sutter hockey. You look at his time with the Kings. A lot of that core was pretty young, and in the second, he came in late in the season when they won that their first cup. And they had 24-year-old Antti Kopitar. They had 22-year-old Drew Doughty. And then with the second cup run, they had 21-year-old Tyler Toffoli, 21-year-old Tanner Pearson, who were playing big minutes, important minutes, and all the games in the playoffs. It's all about trust with him. It's the same thing with Travis Green. There was a lot of talk about whether or not Travis Green likes to play young players when he first got the job with the Canucks after being promoted from Utica. It's all about trust. You have to be the coaches have to trust them, and if you're good enough, he'll play you. And I think that's why I think they'll give Juuso Välimäki all the opportunity in the preseason to earn his spot in the top four, but they've brought in depth. They brought in veterans that Daryl knows plays his style, that can be maybe a second pair defenseman for Daryl, even though I don't think it's the right move. It may not be the best in terms of foot speed and all that, but that's what he's done, and that's what Brad Treliving's done to help Daryl. Is you've got some young players, but they've got some veterans to step in and push them, because you can't just hand these guys spots. That's been I think that might have been part of the problem with the Flames, and especially with what Daryl thinks. You've talked about this a lot there, Kev, about how Daryl thinks that there was a bit of entitlement with the younger players on the Flames. And I think that's part of this, is bringing in veterans that can push them, that can make sure that they earn their spots.
Well, even what Milan Lucic said at the end of the year, he said, what did he say? He said, if you're more focused on your individual stats and team play, that's the problem. So, I mean, this is where the tension is what Brad has done. I mean, they have brought in guys that certainly they're team guys. They are absolutely there for team. But that I think we can all agree on. The problem, though, is skill, foot speed, and the true question is, did they get the individuals out? And I'm not, when I ask this question here, because I think Fan City has asked a good question. I'm not saying that Sean Monahan is an individual, but Sean Monahan has been a part of a target of trade rumors. Thought to be maybe the piece that the Canadians were going to go after here with the Kotkaniemi offer sheet. But Van City asks, the Sens need a top six center, and I think Monahan would be a good fit. What would the Flames be asking? I think that there's a good trade option there for the Flames and the Senators. Actually, I think that's Monahan would be a good fit in Ottawa, and I do think there are some pieces that I would like back. Brady Tkachuk. Well, no, I'm just kidding. That's not going to happen. But that would be a pretty interesting trade option for the Flames, I think.
Well, you said you could see a trade. I'm kind of curious on who you're valuing as a 2-for-1 or even just a 1-for-1 swap there, Kev.
Nick Paul would be an interesting fit. Let me kind of just go through here. If we want to go D, Zub would be I don't think Zub is on the radar for the Flames, but that would be an option. Let me just quickly go through this list here. Even draft picks, they have a few of those.
Well, the only thing though is that we just talked about the lack of skill on the Flames roster here, and we'd be trading either a Sean Monahan who could score 20 to 30 goals within this year, and then getting back a Nick Paul. I love Nick Paul, don't get me wrong, I really do. I think he popped hard last year and in the World Championships, but I don't see him as a trade option. It would definitely be asking a lot for like a Drake Batherson, a Chris Tierney. That's I think a step down from a Sean Monahan. Right now, if you're going for a Sean Monahan trade, you need to get skill back.
There's Connor Brown.
When I look at that roster, when I look at what the Ottawa has to offer, you're starting with Colin White, realistically, and adding to that. Unless you're looking at someone a little younger, and you're targeting, say, a Shane Pinto.
That was another option. Yep.
I don't think if you're trading Sean Monahan, I don't think Nick Paul is the right option. Batherson won't be available. Connor Brown it doesn't do anything for me either in terms of what to fix what the imbalance on the Flames forward group right now. For me, it comes down to if they're willing to part with a Shane Pinto, or if the Flames are how high the Flames would be on a Colin White. And then you build it from there.
Yeah, I don't think the Ottawa Senators are a good fit for a Sean Monahan trade at all. None of those players. Like, yeah, Sean's right. That you could go down a road like that, but right now the Flames are in a win now mode. If not win now within the next 2-3 years, If you're looking at Brad Treliving, the reason why he brought in Daryl Sutter as a head coach is to win now. And Daryl said himself in his press conference coming into the Flames, "I'm not here to rebuild. I'm here to win." And every single night, he's going to put out a team that a roster, a lineup that is going to be the best chance to win every single night. And we saw that down the stretch. Even though Calgary, the Flames are out of the playoffs, he was cementing work ethic and saying that, okay, yeah, you know what, if we lost, those games, then potentially we could have gotten a Coronado, not a Coronado, but Holloway, Dylan Holloway. I think it was on the radar. I might just be throwing up prospects' names just because I think that's them. But there's within the draft this year, there's a prospect that they were kind of wanting, and I heard a lot of Flames fans wanting the Flames to pick him. And if they lost the majority of those games that Daryl Sutter was played, then there was a good chance that we could have gotten him as far as the Flames go. So, anyways, going down the rabbit hole.
Gunther?
I don't think so.
I think you're thinking Gunther. I know because Holloway was last year.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, so you're probably
saying Dylan Guenther or Cole Sillinger or
Sillinger was the one.
Yeah.
Because Sillinger went to Edmonton, did he not?
No, Sillinger went to Columbus.
Columbus. Okay. Anyways, that what I'm trying to get at is just that Daryl Sutter is trying to cement a work ethic and a mandate of what he is expecting. And it is not to be a tweener team. It is to make the playoffs and make a good run in the playoffs and win the Stanley Cup. right now. So Ottawa, I'm sorry, I do not think that Ottawa Senators are going to be a good trade partner for Sean Monahan.
Unless they offer sheet Brady Tkachuk, and then you start building off that trade. I'm just saying.
What?
It would be
the Flames offer sheet Brady Tkachuk with what cap space?
They're
let's set up a negative cap space right now.
Yeah, let's set up a GoFundMe. I'm just kidding. I'm totally kidding. I mean, or there's also former Canuck. I mean, hey, there's other former Canucks. How about DJ DZ? I'm also kidding. I'm also kidding. I just, yeah. But I mean, that will be a question during the season. I think Sean Monahan's availability too. I think that's interesting in of that. Anything else on the Flames front that we need to get into?
Nope.
Okay. Let's just touch on the Canucks here very quickly because Devin brought it up. We still have not seen the contract, and I mean we brought it up with Brady Tkachuk too. So I think this is all kind of all wrapping together. Pettersson and Hughes still not signed. When are we expecting this to happen? Training camp, start of the season.
I think it's going to be training camp. I think they'll get it done before then. Sounds like Pettersson is kind of waiting to see what happens with Kirill Kaprizov, and what happens there, because it sounds like he might be getting close to a 5-year deal in the $9 million range, and I think that'll add another comparison for Pettersson's camp, and then it sounds like they're making progress with Hughes on something a little more long term too. So I think it'll be done before camp, and I think they'll both be there day one.
Man, logically, yes. Okay. Yeah, sure. It sounds like that things are progressing and will continue to progress in the right direction for not Brad Treliving, Jim Benning, and those two camps of Hughes and Pettersson. There's still a part of me thinks that one of them, if one signs and the other one, if say for instance, Pettersson gets a long-term deal, maybe Hughes wants a long-term deal that, if he might feel a bit shorted out of it, or if I don't see it going this way, but if Hughes gets a long-term deal and Pettersson only gets a similar deal, 5 years at $9 million, that might leave a sour taste in Pettersson's mouth. So I think that there might be potential for things to go potentially south within either one of these contracts. But I think overall, as far as this year goes, yes, I think that both will be able to get a deal done before the regular season. And it might even be a Johnny Gaudreau style deal when he was signed a day before the regular season started with his last deal. The only problem with that is that he did not get the reps that he needed, and actually that was his worst year out of his NHL career, because arguably because he did not get a full training camp. So the sooner that Jim Benning gets this done for both of these camps, I think it's going to be better for the Canucks and for the players of Hughes and Pettersson.
I just don't see Pettersson or Hughes, either of them. I mean, I don't know them personally, but I just don't see either of them wanting to miss training camp. I mean, this happened with Besser, and you talked about Gaudreau. Besser was the same thing. I think Pettersson is going to want to get this done before the season, before training camp starts, and I think Quinn Hughes is in the same boat. I think the Canucks are just, Sean talked about this. I think the Canucks are very motivated after their season last year. I think they want to get everybody in camp. They want to get everybody kind of on the same page here, and I think even if he misses a couple of days, I think that throws everything off. I think that they need and they will get this done before camp.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same thing with Brady Tkachuk in Ottawa. You got Kirill Kaprizov in Minnesota. Rasmus Dahlin hasn't signed yet for Buffalo too.
Yep.
Like they're not, the Canucks are not alone with big key players not signed. Robert Thomas, the guy who is lost in the shuffle when we have these talks about RFAs and everything, has not signed with St. Louis yet. And it's just, I think we're gonna see a bunch of, like, the next 7 to 10 days are gonna be, we're gonna see them all resolve themselves, I think.
Yeah, well, I mean, the only thing though is that separates Vancouver from all the other RFA signings that haven't happened yet is the fact that is your number one center and that is your number one defenseman.
Oh yeah, I get it. It is. The one thing that is helping though is that they're represented by the same agents. So I think that helps. I think it helps. It helps, but also complicates things, I think, a little bit as well. But like I said, I think it's going to happen. Makar and Heiskanen set the market for the defense, and the Canucks, I think, are just trying to find the right. I think they're probably just trying to find the right length of it for Hughes, and I think they want to go longer. And then with Patterson, it'll come down to what happens with Kaprizov if the rumors are true and he does end up signing that deal with Minnesota here soon.
Yeah. To me, I think that there's a lot of people just waiting for dominoes to fall. This has been the theme of the off season, eh? We're waiting for dominoes to fall. We're waiting for someone else to do something, and then once that thing is done, then we can do something, kind of thing.
And that's the catch-22 of it. It's like, okay, it's like a game of poker, or I don't know, whatever. You're just waiting for somebody else to make a move first to see what that move is and how big it is, and if you can just build off of whatever that move is. And it's getting to a crunch time here where the RFAs, the trade market, God, you gotta, if you're a GM, you gotta solidify your team before training camp starts. Even if you are training, you're a player and training for a different team, you still want to get them integrated into their new team if there's going to be a big trade. Looking at when the trade deadline is, just as for instance, I still think that teams want to get trades done before the trade deadline, because if you look at big names that are traded at that time, it takes them at least a month or two to get integrated into the city, integrated into the locker room, the lineup, strategies, all that stuff. So the sooner that if there's going to be a massive trade frenzy here before the beginning of training camp, that's when it needs to happen, is before the beginning of training camp. Otherwise, you're going to be a step behind.
Yeah. No, I certainly agree with that. Just looking at the Blues roster, by the way, a name that, I still don't think the Flames should go after him, but there's still the Vladimir Tarasenko situation has not been resolved in St. Louis, and that was a big concern. So that's another piece to watch there. But I think, it's not only Pettersson or Hughes. I think there's two other issues here that I think run into part of the problem that are interesting. I think for a lot of players, after what they went through last year, and you kind of heard it with Erik Gudbranson talked a little bit about it too. It was an adjustment with no fans. I don't think that they felt, a lot of teams probably just didn't feel they had their best season, and they just want to get to camp and get kind of back to that normal that we've all been wanting. I think for them, they want that. And the other issue that is coming up here, and I don't know if everyone had the chance to listen to Zakaris and Price's interview with Ryan Kesler, but sort of the sticking point with everybody was Ryan Kesler talking about taking less for the team. And the difficulty with that, and where Pettersson runs in, and Hughes probably runs into this a little bit, maybe more Pettersson, I don't know, because Hughes has a market set, is taking less just hurts from the NHLPA perspective. And you don't, at this point in your career, you don't have that same clout that a Ryan Kessler has, where he can say, okay, I'll take less to bring more in with the NHLPA. I don't think Pettersson is there yet, and I think that's sort of the other thing that's going on here too, right? Is, and there was discussion about that during the year off season, that Pettersson should take less to help the team win. I just don't think Pettersson is can do that yet. I don't think he has that cachet with the NHLPA. And if you've worked in a union, sorry, just let me finish here. If you worked it within a union environment, sometimes you got to be careful. You do that relationship can be more important than you think. Anyway,
it is, but the other thing is you have to be, if you're going to take less, you have to be confident that the team's in a spot that they are going to be competitive for a while, and Canucks haven't proven that. Like this, when Kessler got his final deal with the Canucks, and he signed for $5 million for 6 years. He left money on the table, but they had Gillis and Gilman running things, and they were in the playoffs. They were a perennial playoff team, and they were on the up. They had that's where it was, and it's like he saw the opportunity to take a little bit less, still make a good chunk of money, but take a little less so that they could bring in more players, so that they could have a better team and take that run. The Canucks aren't there yet. As much as I want them to be, and as much as I want to be able to say that they are, they're not. So it's when you say you want to do that, if you put yourself in those players' shoes, and you can take less, but do you feel like that's going to actually help you make that next step, or is it going to just be futile?
Brendan Shanahan said the exact same thing 2 years ago when Marner and Matthews had their deals negotiated as well. So it's a fine balance between a union, fine balance between team relationship. What does your life look like? How much do you think you're worth? Man, it's really hard. But if you are, I agree with you guys. If you are in a window to win, then taking a bit less on the table for, let's say, a 3-year contract to get somebody else in to push you over the top and make you a Stanley Cup contender, or to push you over the top to be a playoff team. Those are two separate things right there. Playoff team and a Stanley Cup contender. Man, I could have a handful of teams that I could think that are going to be Stanley Cup contenders this year. And there's a lot more teams that are going to be bubble teams. That's like, okay, well, you know what? Maybe they're in, maybe they're out. And then right in between that is the teams that you're like, okay, these are for sure in the playoffs. Let's see how well they do. The entire picture of players negotiating contracts on, let's say, whatever team you're on, it's a crapshoot. It really is. Like look at John Gibson down in Anaheim. He's a top tier goalie. He just has nobody around him to help support him. Let alone they're not even close to being well, they're not even close. They have good pieces in their system there, but overall, man, they really don't have much going on for him, and I think he knows that. So I know that when he was negotiating his contract, he got a lot, and he got as much as he could out of it because it doesn't matter for him right now.
Yeah, for sure. Let's leave that there. Let's go on here. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I just want to say one more thing is like it's on the team to be able to sell that to the players too.
Yeah.
And if you can't do it, and I think we have that on the docket maybe next. I don't know where you were going, Kev, but Devin brought up Mitch Marner.
Yeah.
And the fact that they have 3 players, the Leafs have 3 players making over $10 million on the cap every year. especially now in a flat cap. That's the other thing is that also throws things for a loop. You don't know exactly when the cap's going to start rising again. So, it's you have to find a way to sell them on it as a team, and the players have to buy into it. And if they're not buying into it and you can't sell them on it, that's not the player's fault. That's the team's fault.
Well, and why part of the reason to bring that up too is Don Taylor and Dolly, while we're talking about that Marner as one of the worst in comparison, as if you're comparing contracts, Don said that he thought Mitch Marner's contract was the worst contract in the league. And I'm curious where Devin is at with Marner, and kind of maybe in terms of, and it's a very interesting situation in Toronto. You've got a bunch of pressure for the Leafs to expect to contend, because they're the Leafs. You also have a guy that I think a lot with an Olympic year. I think people are thinking that Marner is going to be on that is going to be a competitor to be on that Olympic team. But you also have a guy that has not performed very well the last two playoffs.
I don't think he's the worst contract in the league. I don't see that. I think that's a not an outlandish take. I think it's I can definitely see where he's coming from with that. But Mitch Marner, he's an engine, right? He's like a Braden Point, a guy that drives the line, and if he's not going, then that his worth isn't quite there. And so he's had a few, I don't want to say off years, but years that he could have done better for sure. The past two, and these are young players that are getting paid a lot of money, and it might take some time for them to live up to their contract. But I don't think that he is out of the realm of being on that Olympic team either. I think that he should be considered. It really depends on what type of year he has this year, at least the beginning of part of it. And if he's going to be playing like we know he can, then it's almost a no doubter in my mind that he is on that team, because if he is surrounded by that type of a player, best of the best, then I think he'll thrive. But it's very interesting to see how he can counteract these the criticism that has been put upon him, and rightfully so, because he's not been playing like a $10.9 million player, but I still think he has the potential to be that. He's only 24 years old, but if he doesn't reach that peak, then man, it does seem like a little bit of a womp kind of thought process for sure.
I wouldn't call it the worst contract in the league, but it's definitely not. It's not. It's not. I wouldn't say it's far off. I think he still produces. He's still a big part of that team, but as a winger, and you had already started. You had already had Matthews and Tavares signed for $11+ million a year. I just think it was they should have done a better job at finding a way to grind it down, or sell him on being able to taking a mill here, a mill off would have been huge, because that helps them every year on the cap, especially not and all that. So it's just, as I said, I don't think it's the worst contract. I mean, you can look at one of the contracts the Canucks acquired this year. I think Oliver Ekman-Larsson's deal is, I think it would be right up there in one of the worst deals in the league right now. But it's so hard to find a way to balance it with and the cap, and that's what makes the NHL and everything so. I think it's tough to make moves because of that, but it's also, that's what makes it so tough, and that's what makes teams that find a way to do it and fit their young player, all their players under the cap. Keyword under the cap. It works. So that's why it's so hard.
Well, with the Leafs too. I mean, the interesting thing with the Leafs is you had Marner at $10 million, and then you were able to somehow convince Joe Thornton to come for a year, get up for a low pay contract. You still have Jason Spets at $750. Wayne Simmons is sitting at $900,000. It is interesting how you're doing that. But then the other side of that is a guy like Ilya Mikheyev, who reportedly, and I'm going to use the word reportedly because I did not hear it from him. And sometimes it's the off season. We need content, but he did, according to Elliot Friedman, he asked for a trade last season. And this is a guy that the Leafs were high on. And I know Devin was high on as well. He's a UFA next year. He's making 1.6 this year. This is a guy I think you have to, if the Leafs are going to go anywhere, I think they need something for Mikheyev, or they need to make a decision on whether or not they move on from him.
I think he saw. He's very much. God, I just sound like a broken record here. Very much like a Zach Hyman type of player. I think he has a lot more skill than he has shown. The first year that he was here 2 years ago, he actually showed a lot of skill. He's a big body. He can move his feet really well. He's smart with the puck. But after he got injured in that initial season with the Toronto Maple Leafs, he wasn't the same player that he came in with, and lost the coach's trust, which was, I think, hard for him. But now that Zach Hyman is gone, I think he will have a better shot to make a difference in the lineup and be a part of the top six for the foreseeable future, if he can prove that he can sustain that play. They did get a Nick Richie for 2 years at 2.5. And so I think those are very similar type of players. Nick Richie probably doesn't have as much offensive skill in my mind that Mikheyev could potentially output, and his potential is higher within that. So I'm kind of curious to see exactly where they're going to be put in the lineup, and I think they're going to be pegged against each other, Richie and Mikheyev, to be, okay, well, who's going to be in the top six? How are you going to what are you going to do on a shift in, shift out basis that'll make the difference in where you sit in this lineup? Because I truly believe that if you look down the lineup here, they took a chance on Andre Kasha as well this year at a 1-year deal. He's had little spurts here and there with being offensive, with having good offensive punch, but he's riddled with a concussion injury right now for the past few years, and so that's going to be your right side. And then on top of that, you have, like I said, Mikheyev and probably Nick Richie fighting for the exact same spot in the lineup. So if Mikheyev is going to be if he's going to be an important part of this Toronto team, it's going to be within that top six, and I think that he does have the potential to really help out, especially with losing a Zach Hyman.
Yeah, I think that with the loss of Zach Hyman, I think there is opportunity for Mikheyev to step up and get the ice time that I think he's looking for. Yeah.
And you also you have Matthews is not going to just be at the start of the year. Yep. And Tavares, I mean, it sounds like he's skating and ready to go, but you don't know. I mean, I'm just, I hope so after what he went through. If that doesn't happen, your number one center and on opening night, if it's not Matthews, it's Tavares, it's Alexander Kerfoot.
Woo!
I think they'd move Nylander to center.
Or Nylander, okay. But but
speaking of a contract that was so maligned, and I think it looks really good now.
Yeah, William Nylander. Yeah.
It's very true. Now, just going back to, I did some math here. Mitch Marner and Austin Matthews. Mitch Marner, for the past 3 seasons, has an average of goal scoring or of scoring higher than Austin Matthews does. Does that surprise you?
A little bit, because Austin Matthews had such a noteworthy year last year offensively. So a little bit.
The preface within that is that in their contract years, Mitch Marner had 94 points. Austin Matthews had 73. Now, with saying that again, Matthews, he missed a little bit of time there, but it kind of gives you an idea of where Mitch Marner was in that year, right? And Austin Matthews, he got a little bit more, I think, because of his potential, along with him being a center. But a 94-point year on his and played every single game, 82 game season for Mitch Marner. It's pretty damn good.
I also think part of the perception with Marner has to do with how that contract negotiation ended up as well. I think his family getting involved and all of that. I think the way that it landed, I think just has put a kind of a bitter taste in people's mouth with Marner. And the playoff success, I think that they want to pin. They need a scapegoat in Toronto, and Marner was as good of a scapegoat as anybody else.
Yeah, and not to mention fans harassing his family as well during that contract negotiation in the summer was hard on him, because I don't know if you guys remember, but he did send a letter to Twitter or social media saying, "Hey, listen, like everything's all good until you start bringing my family involved."
Yeah. No, and then you had Steve Simmons write the William Nylander is IKEA furniture. I think that rubbed a lot of Leaf fans the wrong way, and they needed that. Yeah, Marner's been sort of the scapegoat in Toronto. And I don't know if that's as fair as people are making it out to be. Like, I'm certainly, he needs to play better in the playoffs. I'm not saying that that's not an unvalid criticism, but I still would take Mitch Marner on most cases on my team.
Yeah. So do you think he's going to be on the Olympic team?
So it depends how you process the lineup here, because I think you've got Connor, you've got Crosby, McDavid. I think for sure Bergeron. I think Bergeron now is a lock for sure.
He's a question mark for me.
I think they're going to put him on. I think you got McKinnon and Points a lock. Bergeron probably a lock.
Stone.
Yeah, Stone's. It may come down to Stone and Marner, and depending on the role you have for him, I think you might go with Mark Stone. So he's not a lock for me.
Okay.
I have him on the team. I think Marner makes it. I think he's too skilled to leave off. You can build a team and have roles for everyone, but I still think the right side. I think he's one of the best right wingers that Canada has right now.
Yeah, I mean, if you go, Crosby, McDavid, McKinnon, you've got Bergeron, Point, Marchand. Mark Stone is there. I think it's a possibility. I don't think it's a lock. That's what I say.
I'd say that for me, there's a better percentage that he makes the team than he doesn't.
We didn't get your opinion, Devin, on the NHL going to the Olympics, so maybe this is a good time to get your thoughts on that.
Oh, it's stupid. Hate it. Yeah. No, it's like anybody who says different that they're not excited for it. I think you're missing out on the big picture that they wanted to go, and they actually left. The NHLPA left a bunch of stuff on the table because the majority of the NHL players said, you know what, just get it done. Just figure it out, because gold medals matter to them. It really does. Yes, from a fan's perspective, waking up in the middle of the night to watch it, or stay up and do an all-nighter watching the game, is going to be interesting. But overall, you're putting best on best against each other. How strong not just Canada, U.S., but the rest of the world is, of Sweden, Finland, Russia. Even Germany is going to be better than I think people put them out to be. I'm very much looking forward to see how Canada does against those type of teams. And man, the U.S., I think they're probably going to put out the best U.S. team that they've ever had, with the amount of skill that they have. And even without Eichel, they still have a ton of depth within their country. And thinking about Team Sweden, man, they're going to be damn good, and like I said, Finland as well. I don't sleep on them, because they have a lot of really good players as well. And I'm so happy that it's actually happening, and that they were able to find a way around it. Yes, there's clauses that are involved with potentially the NHL not going, but you had to add them in there because of COVID, because of all the other bullshit that's happening around the world right now. So I'm thrilled about it. I can't wait to watch him play.
Yeah, I mean, I think for the fans' basis is going to be excited. This is not going to be, in terms of an Olympic experience, a traditional Olympic experience. It still doesn't sound like it's going to be that. It sounds like it's going to be a very strict. And still, things are still up in the air. I didn't hear anything in terms of the players have to be vaccinated to go yet or not, but I'm assuming that will be part of that process. So, I mean, it's good that it'll be a nice escape in the middle of February. And then I know for the owners, it's not the best, but I think for the fans, it's good. We also didn't get your thoughts on the offer sheet, and the Canadians decided to not match the offer of Kotkaniemi.
Well, I mean, Bergevin probably listened to our podcast of me saying don't do it.
I think he did. Yeah,
you're welcome, Mark.
Thanks, Mark.
Yeah. Yeah, it's you know what? I think it's a smart move by the Montreal Canadiens and Bergevin. He's not a $6 million player, and the qualifying offer on top of that, if he goes to arbitration next year, is of that. If not, I believe it's 5. Right? Is it 5 or 6? I think it's 5. If not, right around there. Either way, he's not worth that unless he has an amazing breakout year. I think he'll probably play on the wing, Kotkaniemi, even though he's labeled as a center, just because of their depth down the middle in Carolina. I think he has a good potential to play with some really good players and put up some good numbers with the Carolina Finlands, if you will. Just like the Calgary Sweden / Canucks are concerned. You know what? I think it was good for Montreal to walk away and to get Christian Dvorak. I think is he's a more proven NHL player, and I think Dvorak on the Canadiens is it will be very good. And he's, like I said, seeing where Montreal is at, going to the Stanley Cup Finals last year, I think he's a better fit for that lineup right now. So good on Bergevin for not biting on it and finding as of right now, a better player at a really good cap hit.
All right. Good to get that conversation, get your perspective on that. A couple of other things before we go. The Sidney Crosby has had wrist surgery and is expected to miss the start of the season. Mm-hmm. And if I am not mistaken, it looks like the game on the 23rd between the Pittsburgh Penguins and the Toronto Maple Leafs will have Sidney Crosby's first game back since his first wrist surgery, and Austin Matthews. That may be their first games back. But it sounds like with Crosby, this has been going on for a while, and they were trying to do a number of different surgeries, and he finally decided on this. I mean, I'm glad it's not longer. It's been a while since we've seen a Crosby surgery, and he's still Sidney Crosby. So, yeah.
It sounded like, it was a few years in the making. He just did a bunch of rehab on it and not really getting it totally fixed. Obviously, wasn't happy with where it was at, and if this is going to make him better than he already has been, I'm very much looking forward to it. It kind of sucks that he's going to be missing the first little bit of the season potentially, but it need to be done, and I'd rather have a very healthy Sidney Crosby to go back to our last topic in the Olympics than not.
Yeah, Pittsburgh's has the potential to start the season without Crosby and Malkin, because Malkin had a knee surgery. And he's not going to be ready at the start of camp, and they're not sure if he'll be ready to start the season. So we may see the Jeff Carter renaissance and have him as their first line center, with second line center Teddy Bluger.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be very weird to see Malkin and Crosby out of the lineup, because usually they decide to get injured not at the same time. So I mean, if you're going to be playing Pittsburgh at the beginning of the year, first couple of games, if not the first month, man, you got to capitalize here, especially if you're in that division, because it's getting those points might be very crucial in the long run.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting start for sure. To touch on a couple of WHL things, by the way, we did our weekly interview. Check that out. I interviewed Matt Rowe about Connor Bedard, because I wanted to start as we with the face of this league right now, which is Connor Bedard. No question about it. So get out and see him if you have the opportunity to. But the big news, there was a few things, but the big news of the WHL this week is rule changes. And so we have, let's just go through them here as I pull up the fancy article that says that. Offside, players onside when either of his skates are in contact with the blue line or in his own side of the blue line at the instant the puck completely crosses the leading edge of the blue line regarding the position of his stick. Face-off violations, if he commits a face-off violation, the center will not be ejected, but team will be warned by a linesman that have committed their first face-off violation. Crease violation, the NHL goal crease will be used in WHL arenas. And if an attacking player is in the goal crease and does not attempt to leave immediately, the referee has the option to stop the game with the resulting face-off outside the blue line. Helmets during fights and misconduct shall be assessed to any player who intentionally undoes his chin strap prior to or during a fight. And a head coach can challenge a goal that he feels was offside, with the decision to be determined by the video goal judge in consultation with the linesman. And no line changes by any team on any icing. And if that sounds familiar to you, it is because it is similar rules to the NHL. And I think for the players and development, that is a good thing for the WHL to do.
The one thing that I thought was already a part of the WHL was the whole chin strap thing. Taking the chin strap off before a fight. I thought that was already a thing, but I guess not.
Well, they in CHL they're already punishing fights pretty severely, so let's just tax on more.
Yeah. I know last night watching the Greater Vancouver, the Canadians and the Giants, one of the things that struck me, and I have to remember because I don't remember it being 4 minutes, but headshots were 4-minute penalties. So, and I think they used to be 2. I'll have to check and remember that. But so they're taking all of that stuff a lot more. They're not banning it, but they're not making it. They're not permitting it either right now. A lot of this. So.
I think it's smart. Hey, you have to get that shit out of the game, especially for young developing brains, for younger people, younger men, and women. You really just need to make sure that that they mitigate that, and as far as I know, this is the first time that I've heard about headshots being 4 minutes, but I think it's a smart move.
Yeah.
Also, congratulations to Matt Stieg. Former Flame has been named an assistant coach to the Calgary Hitmen. So good luck to him. We will unfortunately lose him for Flames broadcasts, but I'm happy for him that he's going to be an assistant coach with the Hitmen.
Well, how are we going to get a former Flame, a former NHLer, talking about hockey on the broadcast now? It just seems like we're lacking that. Obviously, tongue in cheek. Obviously, we have.
Wait a minute.
For Stieg, we have Brower and
Corey Sarich.
Corey Sarich, that's the other one. Yeah.
I wonder. I mean, could be some other people that study. You also got Brendan Morrison that comes on every once in a while too.
Yep.
He is a former Canuck and a former Flame. Briefly,
he did. I'll be interested with what's happening with Brendan Morrison. I saw that he was part of some sort of talent evaluations back in Maple Ridge. So I don't know if he's moved back home or if he's doing part time there, part time here in Calgary, because I believe his kids are all old enough that they're graduated now, I believe. So he may have gone back home, back to Maple Ridge, and we may not see him on Flames broadcasts anymore. Might be Canucks broadcasts.
I could. I kind of like, this is just me, but I know that Morrison is a former Flame, but he really should be. If I was the boss of the world, I think Morrison should be on Canuck broadcast because he is more of a former Canuck than a former Flame. Like, it was 1 year with the Flames. He's part of one of the greatest lines in Canuck history. It's just, it doesn't make sense that he's doing Flames broadcast to me.
It was 2 seasons with the Flames, but it was he just lived here. Like, he was living out in Springbank, just outside the city here in Calgary. So he was former NHLer, good, can talk. It made sense to me. Whether or not we see him on Flames broadcast all depends on where he's living, I think.
Yeah, no. What I'm saying is in terms of if I think I think he fits more in the Canucks broadcast than he does in the Flames broadcast. That's just me personally.
Agreed. Yeah, for sure. One analyst I would love to see more of is Christopher Stieg. I think that he is a fantastic hockey mind. If you've got a chance to listen to him on the Fan 960, I believe he's on Wednesdays in the morning with Boomer and Rhett and Pinder. He is a phenomenal hockey mind, and listening to him talk, it kind of surprises me that he hasn't found an assistant coach job somewhere within the NHL or in the WHL, considering he was a Lethbridge Hurricane back in the day.
Well, they think the Flames the Sportsnet Calgary just seems to like to bring on ex-Flames who have played 2 seasons with the team. Because for Stieg, Brower, Morrison, all just 2 seasons. That's it. Like, if you're talking about Stieg,
Sarich
he was here for a bit.
I'm just thinking like maybe 4 years.
Let's see.
It was a while, but it wasn't a while at the same time.
6 years, 6 seasons.
Okay, all right. So the year after he won the Cup against the Calgary Flames in Tampa Bay, he becomes a Flame after that.
2 years after.
Was it 2 years?
Yeah.
Well, is that including the lockout?
Well, they won it. Well, 2 seasons. I'll say 2 seasons after.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because he was 07-08 was the first year for Sarich, and then played 6 seasons. Last season was 12-13, and then one more season as a Avalanche, and then retirement.
Right.
Yeah, be interesting. Is there anything else we do need to do some promotion? But in terms of hockey topics, is there any other topics we did not touch that we should have?
All right, now if there's anything else, we got a bit of running room until puck drops on October 12th.
Yeah. So Sean, you've got your podcast with Heidi.
Yeah, we'll be recording another episode here today, and we'll be talking F1 with another crazy race this morning. We've got all the tennis talk, all the soccer with the Canadian men's national team playing two matches since last weekend, or on last weekend, and then that and some AEW talk, and it's going to be a good episode.
We've got the Kevol podcast that is returning tomorrow. We recorded tomorrow live in the morning. Fred Melody Owen and Bill Arnott will be joining us talking about writing. And then we've got I'm currently lining up for sure another WHL guest, just trying to get some final tests on that. So keep an eye out for that during the week as well. And we will be bringing back the midweek intermissions. We just are trying to decide when and how. But that will probably be more in October, but who knows? Or once NHL training camp starts. But let's leave it there. Unless, Devin, do you have something to promote?
Yeah, I'm promoting my own podcast, Devin Holmesmith podcast, bashing the Kevin Olenek podcast and Sean and Heidi's new podcast. So check me out. Don't at me. I'm just kidding. No. Empty Advantage in Calgary. EMS Studios. One of the first EMS studios in Calgary, or in Western Canada. Going to have Pat Steinberg come in, and I've had Ryan Pinder in a few times, and where he obviously is, doing his own thing right now. So he's going to come back in. But hey, now you can at me at Gordhouse09 on Twitter if you want to get in and check out the best workout you'll ever have.
There we go. Also, before we give Sean's Twitter handle, check out Van City on Dunsmore and Seymour. Dunsmore to get your jerseys and your shirts for hockey in the upcoming season. He's loaded over there. Check him out there. Sean, how do we follow you?
I am BeardedCanucks03 on Twitter.
Tyler, the guy with the hair, TNOBLE. Schneidz, who's currently sleeping, SCHNEIDZ. I am KEVOLE, podcast_hockey, Facebook.com, The Hockey Podcast, YouTube.com, The Hockey Podcast. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching, and we will talk to you all very soon. Bye for now.